Blog Talk Radio.
Readers Entertainment Radio presents Booklights with your host, author Lisa Kessler. Booklights, where we're shining a light on good books.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here today. Wherever you are, I hope that things are getting warm and the flowers are blooming, and hopefully it's not too hot wherever you are. From Florida here, we're already in the hot. But anyway, I'm excited that you're here today because we have on a debut author, and anyone who is a frequent listener knows that I get so excited about debuts because it reminds me of that, eager excitement of holding that book in your hands for the first time. It's so exciting, and it's also a little terrifying because you're like, who's going to read this? So anyway, I love pumping up debut authors, and Caroline Cleveland has a great new book out. It's called When Cicadas Cry, and if you haven't read her yet, because this is the first one, let me read her bio so you can get to know her. Caroline Cleveland is the founding partner of the law firm Cleveland and Conley, where she represents private and public employers, including law enforcement. A native South Carolinian, South Carolinian, there we go. She inevitably writes from a Southern perspective. She gravitates both as a writer and a reader toward mystery and suspense, and she cannot resist a character with a dark secret. She lives in Charleston, South Carolina with her husband, David, and you can learn more at her website. I did put a link right there on the Blog Talk site, so if you are listening live right now today, or if you're listening later, you can click that link and check out her website. There's so many gorgeous pictures on there, and also I think she has a newsletter. So anyway, definitely check that out. And without any further delay, are you there, Caroline?
I am here and excited to be here. You can't see it, but I'm wagging.
Yay! Well, I'm super excited about this book. Do you want to tell everybody about it and why they should go grab a copy?
I would love to. It's a Southern legal thriller. It's set in Walterboro, South Carolina, where I grew up, and in nearby Edisto Beach, which is a small residential beach. It takes place in 2017, and that was in the wake of the Mother Emanuel Church massacre and the police shooting of Walter Scott, an unarmed black suspect. And both of those things were here in the Low Country. So racial tensions are very high in the Low Country at the time, and it's against this backdrop of social unrest that our story opens. And the book begins with a high-profile, racially charged murder. A white woman has been murdered in a church, bludgeoned to death with an altar cross of all things. And the young black man found kneeling over her, covered in blood and with fresh scratches on his arm. He insists he's innocent. So, of course, our protagonist will be taking the case. And he immediately finds himself fighting not only a formidable solicitor, but also the realities of the racism his client faces. So while our young lawyers work in his case, the current case, his investigator and, seemingly perpetual fiancé reopens a decades-old cold case. Two teenage girls were murdered on Edisto Beach in the 1980s. 34 years later, there's still no answers to the questions. So as these two stories start to progress, they start to converge, and our two co-protagonists, and they really are equals, co-protagonists, they start to see disturbing similarities in their respective cases, and they'll start to wonder if there could be some kind of connection between the two. One thing they're sure of is that someone in this sleepy little town is keeping some long-buried secrets. What they haven't figured out yet is that a killer has infiltrated their inner circle and would kill again to keep those secrets.
Oh, it sounds delicious. I have to ask, because when I was reading your bio, about employment law and everything, what inspired this book? Did you, have a client and go, I mean, how did you get this idea for the twisty-turny murder?
Well, the first part of the story, the core part, a young lawyer working a case with absolutely no idea that it might possibly be connected to any other case, certainly not one that took place back when he was born, had been in my head for a long time. So I couldn't really tell you what inspired that. It's been in my head for so long now. But the racial push of the case, the spotlight on social injustice just sort of happened. I live in Charleston. We're 3 or 4 blocks from the Mother Emanuel Church. I practice in the state and federal courts where those two trials took place right across the street from each other the same week.
Wow.
So it started to dawn on me, well, if my story is set right here, right now, this is affecting everybody here. There's no way it's not going to play into what's happening in my story. So that part, reality affected my fiction, if you will. And I think fiction is best when it imitates real life because the characters are more real to us, and the scenarios seem more frightening because they could maybe really happen. Also, I've always liked Grisham's A Time to Kill and Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, but I've kind of always thought of those as like yesteryear. It wouldn't happen that way now, But
right.
then I started watching what was happening now, and I thought, well, gosh, maybe it's not as different as I thought. So those things sort of probably influenced the way the book started. I only sat down to write a mystery. It never crossed my mind to say anything important about society in a murder mystery. But somewhere along the line, my characters just kind of decided they wanted to throw in some thoughts that were more thought-provoking, and I just sort of rolled with it.
Right. Well, I think fiction is a great way to sink into someone's skin and see the world maybe in a different light than you had before. And
Absolutely.
It gives you, a safe way to explore, some things that maybe you hadn't even thought about before.
Absolutely, and I was listening, and there's so much going on at that time. People were on corners with bullhorns. There were protesters. There were demonstrations. Every editorial, every news story, it was just everywhere. And as I'm listening to all these voices, I kind of tried to soak in what different people were saying from different perspectives. And as I wrote this book, rather than make it all about my point of view, I tried to channel and echo those very different voices from different people with different perspectives and give them a platform on my pages. So I hope I was successful at that. If I wasn't, I'm sure I'll hear about it.
Well, so far, the early reviews I was reading have all been very positive and lots of comparisons to Kill a Mockingbird. And in a way, for me, I always find that that's kind of depressing because, haven't we grown? But, history just keeps repeating itself,
It certainly does, but I will tell you, there's a lot of hope and a lot of heart in this book. That's usually not what you look for or expect to see in a murder mystery, and not to be, dismayed. I promise there are plenty of dead bodies to trip over, but there really is a lot of heart in this story and a lot of emotion. And most of the books that I remember later after I've read them and carry them with me have something to do with human love, whether it's familial or friendship or romantic, the finding of love, the losing of love, the searching for love. Those are the ones that seem to stick with me. So there is a thread of that too. So I hope that's what readers will take away.
Yeah, I love that.
After they have fun.
Yes. Well, I was going to ask, too, because there is a young lawyer and he's in love with his investigator. I'm wondering, will this turn into a series? Do you have other book ideas for the two of them to conquer?
I do indeed have some ideas, and I'm certainly hoping it will. I mean, I don't have anything finished at the time, right now, and I don't know what my publisher is looking for. But, yeah, I certainly hope that Zach and Addie will be back with us.
Oh, yay. So what is next? What are you working? Are you working on, some ideas for book 2?
I am, but there's really nothing solid to kind of give you yet. It's also subject to change. When I start a book, I know exactly where it's going to start, and I usually know exactly where it's going to end, but I don't know how we're going to get there. I mean,
that's my writing process too.
I'll use the analogy of an old-fashioned map. I'll unfold it all over the table, and I say, okay, Charleston's here, and Atlanta's here, and I'm going to go from point A to point B, but I don't know if I'm going to take the interstate, if I'm going to take some back roads, if I'm going to ditch the car and hop on a bus, pick up some passengers, whatever else. I let that part happen. And sometimes you have to backtrack. It doesn't always happen in a way that it works in a story, but to a certain extent, I try to let it happen because it becomes more natural and less forced, I think, for me.
Right. Yeah, I usually don't know. I know where it will end, don't know how I'll get there, and I always call it's like writing without a net, because sometimes I sit there and go, why can't I plot? But everyone's process is different, and so anyway, I totally can relate to that. This kind of dovetails into our listeners are always curious about your writing journey. And since your background is all in law, I'm very curious too. Have you always been writing on the side, or what made you, how did you end up with a published fiction?
I read just voraciously. I love to read and generally read a couple of books, so at least 2 or 3 books a month at a minimum. And although with all of this that's going on now, I'm afraid I have not done a lot of reading for fun. But so I had gotten to a point, I'm going to say somewhere around 2014. Or maybe a little bit earlier than that, I said, I think I could do this. I could write a novel. So I sat down, and I did. I just sat right down and typed it all out and printed it all out and looked at it and read through it, and it's like, this stinks. It was just awful. So I thought maybe I need to rethink this. Perhaps a little class or 2 would be a good idea.
Of course.
Learn a little bit about the craft that I was so sure I had. But, the trying of it was such a lesson in and of itself. Because when you're sitting in a class and somebody's telling you how to write, it doesn't click for you if you haven't already tried and figured out what they're talking, what the roadblocks that they're trying to tell you how to get around from. So that helped, and it. Then I wrote a second book, and the second book was really good, and it landed me an agent and a publisher, but it hasn't been published yet. They wanted to know what else I was working on. I showed them what I had of this one, which wasn't completed by a long shot, and they fell in love with the first 40 or 50 pages, and so that's how we ended up here.
Oh, my gosh, that's cool. Do you think that other book will ever get published, or are you?
It certainly is my hope. It's a good book. It certainly is my hope. But, the publishers look at what people seem to be wanting now, and a lot of different factors on what is viable out there. So whether they'll take it yet next, or whether they'll want something else, or whether I'll do well enough with this one to even get invited back, who knows? That's certainly what I'm hoping for.
Yes, that's part of the thrill of debut, is that you just hold your breath and hope for the best.
That's right. I've done what I could do. I wrote the book. I got it out there, and I'm doing my little small book tour now. So that's all I can do. People will love it or they won't love it. It'll have to stand on its own now. But I have good thoughts about it.
Yeah, the baby goes out in the world, and then you hope for the best.
I'm hoping all the cicadas are a sign. There's this big cicada palooza kind of thing going on this summer with 2 of the large periodic breeds coming out at the same time. I think it's Brood 19 and Brood 13, and those 2 broods haven't come out of the ground at the same time since Thomas Jefferson was in the White House. So
wow.
I'm hoping that's a sign that we're going to be just fine.
Yeah. Oh, I think so, for sure. I'm from San Diego. I'm not from Florida. And when my son went to get his master's degree, he went to KU in Kansas. Mm-hmm. And I took him, I drove with him, and then I flew home. And when I got there and went outside the hotel, there's this horrible buzzing. Like, I was like, is there a live power wire? What is that? And because in San Diego, it's so dry that we really don't have a lot of bugs. And so I did a Facebook Live because I wanted to know what the noise was. And all the people on Facebook are like going, cicadas. And I thought, this is a bug? But they're really loud.
They are. And the 2 big broods coming out, they're periodic cicadas. Some of them come out only every 17 years, and the other brood comes out only every 13 years. And the first page of my book is about that. It talks about, it was such a serendipity thing, I had no idea. The period, the old case and the new case and the reemerging and the destined to happen again theme is just exactly what is the whole overriding of my story. And so I had written this whole page about cicadas, and that's what you open the book with. And now suddenly we have trillions, that's with a T and an S on the other end, trillions of them coming out this summer. So I just, that was so exciting for me because it's not exactly like you can plan that.
Right. That's part of my favorite part of writing, is when magical things like that happen that you were never planning on, but then it all works out and you're like, oh, I see you, universe. I see what's happening.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Now if they could just translate it for me.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, that would
a
make
good
it a
sign,
lot
bad
easier.
sign, what?
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you, because you work in the law and your main character is a lawyer, how much of your work actually inspires your writing? Have your other books been about the ones that aren't out about lawyers and things?
No, this was the first time I had written this way, and in fact, my about a legal thriller, and my own practice is civil law, so I don't go to criminal court, don't know anything about criminal law. Fortunately, I had some clients who I work for public entities, including public defender's office and solicitor's office and that kind of thing. They have they have employees too, so they sometimes need me as well. So I had clients and friends who I developed over the years and become close to. One was the former public defender for the Ninth Circuit, and the other was a man who was first an assistant solicitor and then a U.S. attorney on the prosecuting side. So I had both sides telling me, reading my book and saying, no, this would never happen here. This would be in a different kind of courtroom. You'd have only these people could be at this hearing, or anybody who wanted to be at this hearing. Things that I just really didn't have the experience to draw from. So they kind of tried to keep me in between the ditches there. And that was really fortunate, and I'm very grateful for their help.
Yeah, I love that, and it's so funny because there's only so much really that you can Google. I wrote a book once with a firefighter hero, and the book opened with a big fire, and I had written 3 chapters before I had a friend with a husband who was a retired fire chief, and so he agreed to talk to me. And he read the beginning, and he said, this would never happen because this cantina is on a Navy base, and they have their own fire department who checks the sprinklers. He said the only way this could happen is if there was an arsonist who knew to turn off the water main in the back. And I was like, what? So I had to rewrite the whole thing, but it changed the whole trajectory of the book because suddenly I had an arsonist.
That's right.
So who knows? Who knew? But did you get any, things that changed the trajectory of your book from having the public defender and the prosecutor all giving you feedback?
Not really, because I talked with them like in shorter spells and through interviews as I was going. So there wasn't anything quite as and then they read it at the end and said, let's get this back in place. But
you did it the right way. You talked to them first before you wrote those
cheating.
things.
I cheated, yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, who inspires you? You said you're a voracious reader. Who do you love to read? And then you go, I need to go write something.
Oh, gosh, there are so many. I love all of the female writers that are doing some of the, if you look back at the old classics, all of the Southern noir that it was men, the Grishams, the Ron Rashes, John Hart, and now all of a sudden we're starting to see some ladies in the game. Stacey Willingham, also from Charleston, with A Flicker in the Dark, and then Dangerous Things, and then her latest one I think is called Only If You're Lucky. What's the girl's? Ashley Winstead did. It's the Darkest Before Midnight, I think is the title of it. It's set in Louisiana. So I love to see all these new female writers coming into this genre.
I love that. I used to enjoy Tammy Hogue. She wrote a lot of romantic suspenses that were in the South where things are hot and there's bugs.
Yes. There are bugs.
And I would read it going, what is this place?
Well, we've got Karen Slaughter, who writes a lot of Southern thrillers as well.
Yeah. So everyone who's listening is quickly adding to their TBR.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. I wanted to ask you, too, if there are, because since the pandemic, everyone binge watches everything, but are there legal shows that you're like, oh, gotta watch it?
Not really. There aren't. I can't think of any. I mean, most of those were back in the 80s. Most of the big series. So no, not really any that I'm watching.
Okay, well then I'm going to recommend.
Good.
Have you seen Suits yet? Oh my gosh, and that's civil law. You might like it.
I will take a look at that.
Yeah, Suits was fantastic, and I only saw it recently because they dropped all the seasons into Netflix. But wow, what a great show! And that's where Meghan Markle was on that show. So that Harry and Meghan, and then the Lincoln Lawyer has been on Netflix too, and that was really twisty turny.
I think I did see that one
off the book. Yeah, that one was pretty fun too. But yeah, I remember the big, LA Law and all those long running legal shows.
The law school suddenly got a lot more applications because apparently people thought it was going to be like that.
Right? Yeah, everybody thought,
spoiler, it's
not. So exciting.
Spoiler, it's not. It's actually work.
My brother-in-law is a defense attorney here in Florida, and sometimes, there's colorful characters, but I have had my dreams of lawyerdom dashed because it's a lot of book reading and
go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say, and strangely, a lot of calendar matching. I'm like, dang, most of your time is figuring out when are we having this hearing.
Well, my husband says my job is about sex, drugs, and rock and roll because all of my fact patterns, either somebody's sexually harassed somebody or somebody's getting drug tested or there's been some other employee mayhem at work. So, and he'll ask me in the morning, what are you doing today? And I'm like, I have no clue. I wake up every morning thinking I've seen it all, and then I go to work.
Hey, so you get exciting things too over there
I do.
In your employment law. You have to tell people, no, you can't put that in your employee handbook.
Absolutely. And then there's this crazy thing that if you're going to write a rule, you actually have to enforce it. So that gets people in a lot of trouble too. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I wanted to ask about your book that you just wrote. When you finished that, did you feel like, oh my gosh, I have to write the next one? Are you writing faster the more that you write?
Well, when they bought that one, it wasn't finished. I only had those 50 pages or so, and I had to finish it in 4 months. So I don't know if I could write any faster than that. The one thing I'm finding now, I still practice full time, so I have a pretty busy job. And on top of that, now that this new book is out, I'm you've got little book events you do where you go out and meet people, and you're in the stores signing, and that it is incredible how much of my time that is taking up. And I am not a technology person. I didn't touch a computer till I was in my 30s, so it's not exactly something that comes natural to me. So Instagram and web pages and all that jazz is taking up. There's been some crying, okay? There's been some crying over Instagram. It's like, I don't understand how everybody else can make every picture in the world square. I just don't get it. So, I'm slowly learning, and it's getting better, and I have some little followers, and I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that they'll figure out they're following someone who does not know where she's leading them. And so, no, I don't think that I write any faster because I just kind of have to fit it in where I can fit it in.
Right. Well, and a lot of people don't realize how much of an author's time is put into marketing because publishers do market a little bit, but they are only going to do so much, and we want the next book to come out. So much time and energy gets put into, notice me because there's so many books that come out every single day. And so you really have to, if you want people to get eyes on the book, you really have to put all of those, time and weepy Instagram posts together.
Well, and people want to know the author. I mean, they don't just want to. They want a picture in their head. They want to know a little something about you, or certainly the people that are before they follow you and buy other books. They like to feel like they know you and know something about you. So it's a big. You're right. It's an important component to get out and meet people.
Right.
It's interesting too.
Yeah. Have you been getting new ideas? Do you jot them down so that you don't forget of what you want to write later?
Yeah, I have lots of. I've always done that. Little scraps of paper and little. I mean, it just looks like your tax time with a box full of receipts. I got all these little scraps and notes, and yes, I definitely go back to them as I go.
Do you foresee that your books are going to stay set around where you live, or do you have other ideas of places you want to travel and set books?
In the short term, at least, probably where I am, because it's just I'm a little bit lazy there. I mean, I know what's here already, and I know how to move people around and make things, and what sites might be available, what sort of remote sites, what sort of recognizable public sites, and I know the people and the climate here better. So I think I can do much more realistic writing if I stay in my own sandbox for a little while. Maybe it will change.
Yeah. Well, before the show started, you and I were talking about, the low country and the trees and all that kind of stuff. But how much of that plays into, because I find that especially in places with so much history, the setting kind of becomes a character. Does that play into it in your book?
Well, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the racial tensions, without a doubt, it comes from our harsh history. Yet that may have been 150 years ago, but that's not that long in the grand scheme of time.
No.
And, and you certainly still feel it and see it today. So, yeah, definitely the history plays a role in it. And the setting as well. The South is such a juxtaposition of conflicting things that sort of heightens the conflict that's going on in the story, I think, anyway. I mean, I love the example of Flannery O'Connor. She just builds in every, family, religion, poverty, rural isolation. It's a Good Man Is Hard to Find is only 64 pages long, but it reads like a full book-length work just because it's so complex.
Right. Well, and there is a flavor to certain areas in the South of that it's so gorgeous, but you can also tell just looking at it that it's also sort of deadly. I mean, you can see little houses that basically nature has reclaimed. They're just covered in growth, and you couldn't even find the door now. And that is kind of it's beautiful, but also sort of unsettling. Do you get that?
Absolutely. It's sort of like Southern hospitality meets death in 60 seconds. I call that Charmageddon.
That's a great word for it. Yeah, because it does lure you in, but it also lets you know that nature is in charge here, not you.
Absolutely. And we have such big nature, big broad, we got a lot of coastline, marsh, wetlands, that kind of thing. So it's you feel the bigness of it when you're standing next to it.
Yeah, and I don't know, does Charleston have alligators like here in Florida? I'm like, not only do we have strange plants, but we also have dinosaurs.
Yeah, they are. We had a really interesting local experience. Recently, a man was scuba diving. He came up. He only had 10 minutes of air left, and right in front of him, an alligator opens his mouth, and he thought he was going to bite his head off. So he gave him his arm rather than get his neck bit off, and then he wrapped himself around the alligator, which took him to the bottom of the river. His air is finally running out. This guy had the presence of mind to take a screwdriver, poke the alligator in the eye, and got away. Tell me that's not a story, and it is real. It's not. I didn't make that up. That's real. That's just crazy to me.
Right? Yeah. You have to be really watching your back here in the South because things want to eat you.
That's right. You are crunchy and taste good with ketchup.
Yes, exactly. Well, before we run out of time, we kind of briefly touched on that you're on Instagram, but readers love to get in touch with authors after they love a book, and I always remind people, please do, because your little note of encouragement of how much you loved a book can really fire an author up to finish that next chapter. So how can readers get in touch with you when they get excited?
They can go visit me at my homepage, or my website, which is www.carolineclevelandauthor.com. And there's a contact page that you can send me a message. And I'd love to hear, tell me after you read the book, fold down the page where you figured it out and tell me when that happened.
Oh, okay. Love that. And you're on Instagram. Are you on Facebook too? How can they find you on
I'm not on
media?
Facebook, but on Instagram I am caroline.cleveland.author.
All right. Perfect. Have they dragged you onto TikTok yet?
Not yet.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. It was great chatting with you. And everyone, go out and grab a copy of When Cicadas Cry. If you love the book, tell all your friends so they grab a copy so that we can get book 2. All right? Thanks for being here, Caroline.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us on Booklights. Be sure to connect with us at www.readersentertainment.com for articles, blogs, videos, and podcasts that matter to readers.